Shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Some of this town ain't got no.
Hi everybody, day 24, quarantine history. A few housekeeping things real quick. I have a lot of people who are not doing so great, and I have emailed most of your parents at this point. I'm just putting it out there. Listen, obviously this is not ideal. It's where we are. I'm doing the best I can here. It's not something that I can tell you that I personally enjoy a ton myself, but this is how this is going to happen. And so I get an answer from parents like crazy. Hey, listen, my kid says, hey, I did everything I was supposed to do, and then meantime, you know, that you're turning in stuff for me, where I'm actually giving you the answers on these videos, and they're the answers are just out in left field somewhere, and people are actually expecting credit for it from me, which that's just not going to happen. And so if you're going to invest nothing, you can't expect to get anything out of it. And so I found a new tool that I'm going to use, at least I'm going to attempt to. I guess we'll know better after tomorrow, because I need to do all these recordings first. But I'm going to start using Edpuzzle. And so I'm going to put a daily assignment inside of each video. Edpuzzle is not going to allow you to fast forward the video. It's going to force you to watch it. And it'll stop during certain points, and it'll ask you multiple choice questions. I'm going to attempt to take the multiple choice questions right out of the test. That way, if you want to keep track of them and write them down, it should make taking the test a little bit easier. But that's the solution I've come up with for getting people at least to watch the 15-20 minutes a day that I'm asking them. So we're going to move on. The United States gained the Louisiana Purchase. It got bigger, and with getting bigger, obviously there's trouble with that. The United States is going to get bigger a second time now, and this is going to give us what is now Texas and California and Oregon and Washington and all those places. And so once again, the country's going to get bigger. It's going to turn into what you know today for the most part, and obviously there will be problems when those things kind of happen. And the issue, it really is going to be slavery that's the undertow of everything moving forward. I'm not sure how far we'll get. We have like 5 weeks left. I plan on teaching till the end. I don't know if you know this, but starting this Friday, teachers aren't allowed to assign you anything new on Friday. So you'll have 4 of these videos this week. You'll have 4 grades. If it makes you feel any better, there's no Common Core in this unit. There is one story, I think, to read. But that's just to give you a heads up. All right, so the United States is going to grow again. We're going to gain what today you know is California, Texas, Washington, the western part of the country. Normally, and I'll put this up on the screen, normally we would play a game in class right now. I would put this on there. It's in your notes, but it's a little map of the rest of the country. There are 4 pieces left we're going to gain. We're going to gain those 4 pieces one at a time. And at the bottom of the paper, if you notice, there's 4 choices: by war, by choice, we buy it, and 1 is through treaty. And I would let you guess, and the people who got all 4 right, I would normally give you bonus points for them. I'm going to put this on the screen. Here are the answers for how we get these 4 parts. We're going to start though with a real brief history of New Spain. New Spain consisted of 3 provinces. The northern frontier consisted of 3 provinces. Here's a picture of New Spain. We talked about the Monroe Doctrine. We talked about the Monroe Doctrine, how the Spanish colonies are all overthrowing Spanish rule with the help of the United States. That's sort of going to be the case here too a little bit. The oldest of those northern provinces is New Mexico. That question is on the test. Settlers lived in small villages scattered throughout. They'll be influenced by the Pueblo Indians there. The Spanish will introduce new tools and food to the region, and the Indians will introduce the Spanish to beans and corn. And for those of you who like Mexican food, beans and corn is a big part of that. But New Mexico was the oldest of the three northern provinces, and New Mexico was the oldest. Another one of the provinces, the northern provinces in New Spain, was California. California is very different from New Mexico. Life in California revolved around missions. And missions essentially was a church, a town surrounded by walls, essentially a small fort. And the Spanish were there trying to convert the natives to Catholicism. Those missions ran from San Diego all the way to San Francisco. And so I'll try to find this picture again and put it up on the screen though, but those missions turned into San Francisco, San Bernardino, San Diego, Santa Barbara. Those missions eventually are going to turn into a lot of the major cities that are in California today. Each one of those missions was a day's travel from the others, north or south. Forts protected them. The Mexicans, the Spanish were hoping that this military presence along the coast of California would keep the British and the Russians away. And outside of these missions were large farms, ranches. These people are self-sustaining. A lot of Indians are going to live on the missions, and they're going to do a lot of the labor there. And like I said earlier, I think that they were run by essentially Catholic priests. California today, California I think is the 9th largest economy in the world if it was its own country. I don't have a map, maybe I can find one and put it up there. The people who are living in these, I'll just go back here on the screen. The people who were living in these California missions, it's not a good picture either. The Spanish who are living in California are way out there on their own. They're very, very isolated, and so these missions are essential for their survival. It's almost like they're living on the moon. To get there, you got to cross over the Sierra Nevadas. You got to cross the desert. They are way out there. They're self-sustaining. They're on their own, and there's not very many people there. Spanish colonists in California were called Californios. I already mentioned they're cut off from the rest of New Spain because of distance, and there are only 3,200 Californios living in California by 1821. It's like twice the population of our school. In all the coast of California, it's very, very sparse and very few people there. The third northern province of New Spain was Tejas. Tejas, Texas, also had a mission system, but it was not as effective as the mission system in California. And the reason it's not as effective is because the missions are not they're not close enough to each other to really help each other out. They're weaker because of this distance they have between them, and the Spanish settlers in Texas have a horrible Indian problem with the Comanche and the Apache Indians. I think that is also on the test. I'll double check for sure. They had to offer land grants to people to get them to go there, and we've talked about this multiple times in class. If you want Jamestown to be safe, if you want Ohio, the frontier, to be safe, if you want Western Pennsylvania to be safe, you need people. And so in an effort to get people there, which makes it a safer place to live, Texas is going to offer, or the New Spain is going to offer land grants to people to get them to move there. And so Tejas is going to start to turn into these huge ranches and these huge grasslands, and people are going to go there for cheap land. And so you have New Mexico, California, and Tejas. They're all very, very different from one another. Ultimately, we know that Spain's not in control of those places today. We talked about the Monroe Doctrine and the United States trying to help certain places get their independence, but the Spanish Empire is essentially crumbling. In Mexico in 1810, 80,000 poor American Indians and mestizos, who are people of mixed race, are going to revolt against Spanish rule. They're going to be led by Miguel Hidalgo y Castilla. He's a priest. He hoped that the independence would improve the living conditions there. One of the biggest gripes that people living in New Spain had was the only people that had any power, any say, were Spanish settlers. The native population and the mixed native population, in other words, people who had mixed races with the Indians and the people who were already there, really had no say whatsoever. And so there was a lot of what's the word I want to use? Resentment towards those people. Things were done just for their benefit. Father Hidalgo, his army is going to grow as he marches it across the countryside. He wants to end enslavement, unfair taxes. In the end, he can't unite enough people in Mexico, and Father Hidalgo's rebellion is going to be crushed by the Spanish in 1811, and he'll be killed. 10 years later, in 1821, Augustin de Iturbide, and I know this for a fact is on the test, Augustin Iturbide is going to defeat the Spanish, and Mexico is going to gain its independence from Spain. 1824, they're going to create a constitution. Mexico is going to become a republic, kind of like the United States, where you elect representatives to represent you. And Mexico would have included what is now Arizona, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, parts of Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Wyoming. If you look at the map there, and I'll try to shoot this picture onto the screen too, had the United States not acquired what is initially the northern part of Mexico, Mexico would be a pretty big and powerful country. They would still have California. I always joke in class, maybe they would be building a wall to keep you out. It's hard to say, but obviously we know that they're not going to be able to keep all that. How we get hold of it is a different story for a different time, a little bit down the road. But this is a brief introduction. Like I said, I'm going to try to put I'll put the questions in here for you. It's going to be 10, 12, 15 minutes today, and we'll see how it works. And that's how we'll keep track if you're paying attention. I hope you're safe. Hope things are going good. The weather's starting to break. The coach in me is going to encourage you to finish the game. Ride this thing out. Get done what you need to get done, and then we'll move on from there. And hopefully we'll be back in school next year. Like I said, I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe. Brief history of New Spain and Mexican independence. I'll put the questions in there. See you tomorrow.
Shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town.